Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Wednesday, the 8th day of November, year of our Lord 2017. Welcome to the John Moore Show. And prepper tip of the day, it's serious. They're all serious, but this one's particularly serious. It's an alert, and it's personal to me. As of this morning, I will be putting my daughter on 24-hour alert to evacuate the West Coast. The reports I'm getting, both private and public, are very concerning. The U.S. military has set up Patriot missile batteries to intercept North Korean missiles on the West Coast. My private sources are talking about the frantic preparations within the U.S. military, obviously, clearly getting ready for war with Korea. So your prepper tip of the day is to be aware, do what you need to do to protect the people you care about. It's going to be different things for different families, and we're going to have open lines this hour, by the way. Professor McCanny, this is the second Wednesday. He will be coming on the second hour on today's show. So what does it look like when you're preparing to bug out? If you have access to a motor vehicle, which most Americans do these days, I know there's a lot in the inner cities that don't, but they're a minority of Americans. You're going to want to make sure you bring with you things that can't be replaced, at least not very easily or not at all. Family photographs, maybe heirlooms if they're not too large and bulky. Important documents. That's going to be, you may want to make some notes here. Birth certificates, marriage license, wills, mortgage papers, insurance papers, automobile titles, all those kinds of things. If you don't have a record of your possessions, a video record, this would be time to do it, which is something you should always have anyway. All you need is a video camera, and room by room, video the object that you're describing and verbally. Let's say it's a piece of furniture, possibly an antique piece of furniture that has some value. So you stand in front of that antique piece of furniture and describe it, and then move on to the next one. Make a permanent video record and keep it off-site so that if there is a house fire, the video record doesn't get destroyed. That would be very helpful to deal with an insurance company. And dealing with an insurance adjuster and dealing with an insurance company, I should say. But that record has to be made in advance. Once the loss has been sustained, you can't go back and create a record once the items have been either burned up or stolen or damaged, whatever it might be. Getting back to bugging out. The motor vehicle should be in excellent mechanical condition. If you don't know how to determine it yourself, have a professional mechanic check out the vehicle, make sure that everything's in tip-top condition, ready to go. Anything that needs to be corrected, get it done. These are things you should be doing anyway, of course. Keep the fuel topped off. Keeping extra fuel wouldn't be a bad idea. Make sure it's stored safely and properly. Carrying gasoline or diesel fuel inside a vehicle is not the best idea for a number of reasons. The fumes can make you sick. It is dangerous, especially gasoline, more so than diesel fuel. But you do what you got to do, right? Cash. I would have a minimum of $500 and $20 bills. Obviously, the more the better. Make sure that you don't flash your cash. Just when you have to pay for fuel, for example, only take the cash that you need inside the establishment to pay for it. Don't bring in a huge wad of cash. It's going to attract a lot of undue attention. Why cash? Well, there's certainly a possibility that ATM cards, credit cards, won't be working. If your credit card, debit card doesn't work, you better have cash. and be prepared for inflated prices. A lot of unethical business owners will immediately inflate prices once there's a crisis. So that's another reason to have twice as much cash as you think you may need. Maps. I know almost everyone these days, except me, it seems like, has a smartphone. I have no inclination to get one myself, but and smartphones have GPS applications on them. And there's also GPS built in these modern automobiles. You can't count on that. The satellites may not be working. The smartphone may not be working. You need paper maps. Seriously, you need paper maps. And maps from where you are to where you want to get and surrounding areas. The better maps you have, the more details, the better off you'll be. If you don't know how to read a map, well, you better learn. You don't want to be on the side of the road trying to figure out how to read a map under pressure during a crisis. Hopefully, you'll have a destination in mind. If you don't, you'll be a refugee. A refugee, by definition, is a person who's bugging out on the run with no destination in mind. A destination should be a safe, secure place where the people that live there are expecting you and looking forward to you showing up, and there's no shortage of resources in terms of food, water, places to sleep, and so forth. That would be the ideal situation. If you are a refugee, then you need to be flexible and not too demanding in what kind of accommodations you end up with, because you may have little, if any, choice about what accommodations you end up with. You may end up sleeping on the floor of a high school gymnasium, for example, or in the office of a county courthouse, or the county garage. It could be less than ideal, shall we say, whatever accommodations you end up with if you are, in fact, a refugee. Not a good idea, but it's better than being the victim of war on the West Coast. And that appears, in my opinion, to be where we're going right now. It's a war with North Korea, which has a high likelihood of becoming a war with China and a war with Russia. More likely China, but Russia is certainly part of the picture there. We had the former head of the CIA about 2 months ago state that the 2 North Korean satellites that pass over the middle of the United States every 12 hours, twice a day, do in fact have nuclear weapons on board, which, if detonated, would cause EMP effect on the United States. That's all I need to know. I'm not sure about you, what your threshold is for believing this is real. We smashed that threshold for myself in the last few days. You can anguish over why war might be happening. You can ponder it. You can come up with all kinds of theories and beliefs, which is fine if you want to spend time on those matters. I personally see it where it serves no purpose other than taking up time that could be used for something more useful, quite frankly. Making sure you've got what you need, that you've taken an inventory of what you've got. Inventory including making sure that whatever items you've got stored up are in good condition, that there's no issues with rust or moisture or rodent damage, moth damage, whatever it might be. That nice wool commando sweater you got stored up, did the moths get to it, for example? Maybe some tools that you've got stored away. Has there been some issues with rust and humidity? Lots of possibilities. All that needs to be checked out. And then mitigate. Take care of rust damage. Repair the moth damage. Make sure things are dried out and properly stored in a safe and secure location. When I put my daughter on alert when this show's over today, I will be advising her that it's not time yet, my dear, to evacuate, but I believe that day could be not far away. I will tell her what I just told all of you, to make sure she's got the family photographs, important documents in one container, ready to load in the vehicle and get going. If she has the cash on hand, that appropriate clothing is identified and ready to pack in a few minutes' notice. If the vehicle's properly checked out, fuel tank topped off, maps are secured, and then go on with your life, my dear. Work your job, take care of your family, go to the normal events you normally go to. Make sure your cell phone's charged up so I can call you if I need to. Now, I believe, based on what I know right now, that's prudent. That's how I feel on Wednesday morning, the 8th day of November. That prudent preparations are called for, while at the same time living what appears to be a normal life. It is a bit schizophrenic, isn't it? Living what appears to be a normal life to the outside world, while at the same time preparing for the end of the world. Yeah, I'd say so. I was thinking this morning how I've had friends. We talk about this recently. I was talking to a friend. He ran across a couple of books that dealt with the humor of being in a war zone in Vietnam, and he was incredulous. It was something he couldn't conceive of, how humor could be part of being in a war zone. But it was. It was. We had mostly a somewhat normal existence over there. Combat didn't take up that much of our time. It took up some of our time, especially the Tet Offensive. That was pretty intense. When I was flying combat missions, that was obviously pretty intense. But the majority of time, in terms of percentage, was living and working without ducking bullets and rockets and mortars. I recall being on guard duty during the 1967 World Series. I'm not a baseball fan, but at the time, my hometown, St. Louis Cardinals, were in the World Series. And so I'm on guard duty, and I had a little portable radio on very softly so I could listen to the game at 2 o'clock in the morning. Whatever time it was middle of the night. That's all I remember. 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, listening to a baseball game on the other side of the planet. I thought that was kind of neat to begin with. And the way the technology had progressed, that I could be on the opposite side of the planet and listen to a baseball game 12,000 miles away. We had a lot of good times, and fun times, and sad times, of course, and horrendous times in Vietnam. And that's just part of any war, any time. Young men will do their best to make the best of a situation, whatever it might be, and find humor where it can be found. That's the way young men are. Not just Americans, but young men everywhere. What's going on with Korea? Well, the war drums are beating. That's what's going on. I don't know for sure what the motivation of Kim Jong-un is. It's outside the norm, to say the least. I'm not sure what he hopes to gain by doing the things he's doing. What he's doing is running a family business. He's the grandson of the man who started that communist dictatorship. frequently referred to as Stalinist, which is somewhat accurate. Reports we get from North Korea is that the people that live there take pity on Americans. They think that they have a better life than Americans do. That's how tightly controlled the media is there. You have to be a fairly high-level person in the North Korean diplomatic corps or military before you have access to what's really going on in the West or in the United States. How we really live our lives, the lifestyle we have, the luxury we have. You may not think yourself as living in luxury, but if you're an American in this country, almost without a doubt, you have luxury compared to most of the 7 billion people that live on this planet, most of whom will never, ever live in a home with hot and cold running water and flush toilets, most of whom will never sit on a flush toilet during their life, most of whom will never ride in an automobile, let alone own one. Yeah, we live in luxury. A home with electricity? Yeah, we live in luxury. You may not have a private airplane or 2 homes or the latest and greatest automobile, but compared to the rest of the planet, yes, you do live in luxury. A welfare mother in the inner city of any American city lives in luxury compared to most of the 7 billion people that live on this planet. Living in a home as opposed to a cardboard shack or a grass shack with electricity, hot and cold running water, flush toilets, cable TV, internet, a smartphone. I think it's safe to say that most welfare mothers live in similar accommodations. Here's our break. If you got a question or comment, give us a call at 800-313-9443. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 8th day of November. Well, I'm reading that the gentleman who shot the church shooter, Mr. Stephen Williford, is NRA certified firearms instructor, just like myself. And congratulations to Stephen for responding as quickly as he could to stop that man from murdering even more people than he did. His only regret is he couldn't get there quicker. But he was the first responder, and he did, in fact, stop the shooter from killing any more people. And That was that. Okay, we got a caller on hold here. We got Davey in Texas. Good morning, Davey.
Good morning. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Well, you were just fixing to talk about that alleged shooting down there. And I was
alleged shooting? You don't think one happened, sir?
Well, I recall whenever the Sandy Hook event occurred,
Right.
and I was in Alabama, and I was at a friend of mine's place, and he was dying of cancer, and he was right there at the end, and that story came on, and of course his immediate reaction was, you know, thinking about his grandchildren being maybe in a similar situation.
Okay.
And I said, now, Jim, I said, you know, if it's coming over that TV, the likelihood of it being true is pretty small. I said, I'm going to reserve my emotional reaction in this case until I find out more evidence that proves their story is true. Well, I had acquired that position in my own mind after having investigated what happened at Waco. And in that case, it wasn't a bunch of guys taking pharmaceutical, pills to keep their anxiety under control. They actually worked for the global crime syndicate that prints the currency and owns the media in this country, and they attacked a Christian church on Sunday morning out in the country, shooting out of helicopters to the roof while they were allegedly serving a warrant. And they murdered people. And one of those people that were murdered was a woman who was nursing her baby upstairs in bed, and she was a former police officer from Hawaii. Her name was Jadine Wendell. Now, they didn't run into town with the videotape of the terrorists who attacked Mount Carmel outside of Waco, 28 February 79, and say, look, these guys just totally messed up under a bad idea and killed a bunch of people. They didn't do that.
What date did that happen? What date did you just give, sir?
Pardon?
What date did you just give on that?
28 February 1993.
Okay. What's your point, sir?
Well, the point is that we had this mountain of evidence for the last 100 years where this global synagogue of Satan crime syndicate has been mass murdering people and loaning money to both sides to kill each other. They have made it in America to where you have people today that believe it's legal to murder babies as long as you have a license. And they have made it to where people believe that two sodomites can allegedly take part in holy matrimony. Now, all of that is double-minded insanity. There's no way around it. The issue is, in my opinion, we need a real hard, fast working definition for stupid. Because something happened yesterday that was, from my own feelings and my own self, my own being, it reminded me of a situation once that there were two guys laying on the ground dead when I showed up and started doing CPR on them, and they were both gone for a good while, more than 20 minutes. And they both lived. After all was said and done, they wound up in the hospital and they were alive. But in my stomach, when I found out about them being alive, because I went to see them that night in the hospital, I was sick at my stomach,
Right. Well, dealing with a near-death experience is very traumatic. Davey, thank you for your call, sir. We got a break. We'll be back after the break.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 8th day of November. I'm just checking my website here, and we've got one more movie to post here. It's not up yet. I'll talk to Tim Spencer about getting that up. Another film, another 1957 film with images of North America with new coastlines, a Navy map. This year has been phenomenal in terms of this project, and all the help all you listeners have given me in locating movies and TV shows with images of continents with new coastlines. A great project, and I think it's easy to prognosticate at this point that this list will double, possibly triple, with the hundreds of thousands of hours of movies and TV shows the past 60 plus years. If you find one, a image of a continent with new coastlines on a TV show or a movie, or even a mainstream magazine, get that image to me, the screen capture, and you get your choice of any of my 5 DVDs as a thank you. It's a fun project. Also, of course, on my website, Energy Cleaners, it's my home business. I use mine every night. I do. How many Americans have arthritis pain? A huge percentage. Joint pain, back pain. You're talking about a big percentage of Americans. Not getting a great night's sleep, another big chunk of percentage of Americans. Why suffer? Why take pharmaceutical products when you don't have to? All you need is an energy cleaner. Yes, that's all you need. Only $285 shipping included to American zip codes. Keep in mind, I offer a 30-day money-back guarantee on the energy cleaner. Not much to look at. Simple black plastic box. It takes 9 D-cell batteries, no on-off switch, no gauges, no dials. Could not be simpler. It's about as simple as a brick, quite frankly. The mattress pads that go with it. It's a great combination. You can check out all the details at my website, the patent application information on the energy cleaner, the great testimonials, and then make your decision, make your purchase using PayPal, the most secure way to make any payment online, MasterCard, Visa, and of course you can send me a check. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. Yes, do keep in mind, yes, I do offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. Toll-free hour line, here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. We're taking your questions, calls, and comments at Republic Broadcasting at 800-313-9443. I'm amazed at the people who do believe that no one died at Sandy Hook Elementary School. I put most of them in the same category as people who believe the earth is flat. Now, I've investigated a lot of crimes for a lot of years, 44 years. I investigated my first murder case 44 years ago, 1973, double homicide. In order for no children to have died at Sandy Hook, that would mean all the parents and siblings would have to be part of the conspiracy. All the funeral directors would have to agree to bury coffins with no children inside of them. All the grandparents would have to be part of the conspiracy. All the first responders, not just the police, but the paramedics, other first responders. I don't know if firemen showed up or not. High likelihood that some firemen showed up. Some communities, they have people doing both duties. It's a long list of people who would have to agree to be part of a criminal conspiracy. That nobody died, that it was just red paint on the floor, and so forth. Same thing with the Boston bombing. People say nobody died, it was just red paint on the street. It was all fake. Get a life. That's all I can say. Get a life. One of my correspondents, and we've been corresponding for a number of years, at least 2 to 3 years before Sandy Hook, he lives in walking distance of Sandy Hook Elementary School. His children went to school there. He's personally acquainted with parents of some of these children that did in fact die. Yes, to believe that no children were murdered that day in Sandy Hook Elementary School is a flight of fancy. But it's a free country. If you want to believe that, you're certainly welcome to. If you want to believe that the several hundred people that would have to be part of the conspiracy were in fact part of a conspiracy because their mortgages were paid off. Now, a friend of mine loaned me a book that makes that claim. I have to admit I have not read much of the book. I've been busy doing things like traveling to Prague, Czech Republic, and Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and doing the things I normally do. There's also people that believe no airplanes hit the World Trade Center buildings. That was a hologram. Professor McCanney, who will be on here in a few minutes, he makes some good points. First of all, holograms can be viewed from one area only, not from multiple areas. And of course, holograms don't have sound. So somebody set up really powerful loudspeakers to simulate the sound of a Boeing commercial airliner striking a building. Yeah, right in your dreams. I remember reading once that the more extreme, the more outrageous the story, the more likely people are to believe it. And these are certainly cases where that appears to be true. I have a couple of friends that they do truly believe the earth is flat. They really, and these are educated, this is an educated man and woman who've gone to real brick and mortar universities. They're bright people. And I told them, I said, for this to be true, every naval, ocean-going sea captain, whether they're private or commercial or military, would have to be part of the conspiracy. Every aircraft pilot, whether they're private or commercial or military, would have to be part of the conspiracy. And we're talking about tens of thousands of men and women for basically, 5 centuries, going back to Christopher Columbus. There'd have to be 2 sets of maps. The map that they really use for the flat Earth, and then a make-believe map with the round Earth that we know in fact exists. What a convoluted construct of logic it takes to believe that the Earth is flat. Now, one of those proponents called my show here, was that 2 or 3 years ago, and attempted to get some airtime. I think he had about maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and I made sure that he's never coming on here again. What a distraction. What a bizarre mindset to believe that the Earth is flat. To believe that if you get on an airplane and go east, you end up where you started. And, of course, there's a lot of unanswered questions like, for example, what's on the other side of the flat Earth? That's a great question. What keeps the water from falling off the edge? And so forth. And so forth, and so forth. Let's stick to reality, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to use your valuable time to ponder things that have no connection to reality, God bless you. Go for it. Do it. I don't. My private term that I use for people that have this, what might be called a syndrome, I say, quote unquote, they have a loose grip on reality. And there's plenty of people like that out there. Now, sometimes it's just plain ignorance. For example, believing that vaccines are good for you, or that sodium fluoride in your toothpaste and in your water is good for you. And these people don't necessarily have a loose grip on reality. They have they're misinformed. They believe things that are not true. And that's pretty much most of our population for different matters, such as the Internal Revenue Service Code, for example. I bought a copy, hard copy, ink on paper, of the Internal Revenue Service Code. About $60 or so. Not quite 10,000 pages. That's the instruction manual. It's kind of amazing, people. You're going to buy an automobile, a boat, or an airplane. You're going to make sure that you get the instruction manual to go with it. Of course you are. But that thin little pamphlet that they have at the post office for instructions for filling out the income taxes, that is not the tax code. It's 20 or 30 pages of instructions. The tax code is 10,000 pages. Who would pay $60 for a book you don't want to own in the first place? Well, I did. I got it. Do you have your copy? Probably not. If you don't have your copy, you don't know what the rules are. Most children in this country, they grow up being told by their parents that if you work hard and follow the rules, you'll have a good life. And that's true. But if you don't know what the rules are, how can you comply with them? I know what the rules are because I got the code book. If you don't have one, you don't have the code book, you don't know what the rules are. You can't because you don't have the rule book. The right thing to do, the legal thing to do, the ethical and moral thing to do is to satisfy any tax liability that you have. On one hand. On the other, if you have no tax liability for any given tax, why would you pay a tax you don't have a liability for? That seems pretty simple and straightforward. If you got a question, ask the people that you might have a liability with. That's what I did. 1994, I wrote the Internal Revenue Service requesting their help in letting me know if I had a tax liability so I might take care of it. Most people would be fearful to do that. Probably 99.9% of the people in this country would be fearful to do that. I have no fear, so I did it. I found out I don't have a tax liability. How about that? We got a caller on hold here. We got Rick in Missouri. Good morning, Rick.
Well, good morning, John. I have, about 2 months ago, you were talking to Doc Myers, and I made a comment about the subject was male energy, and I think I may have led people to believe, and I've got a reason for bringing this up, is because, you know, we have this ongoing yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm listening. Go ahead.
Oh, we have this impending aggression that, you know, it's getting a little worse as time goes on, maybe a lot worse depending on how you view it. And I think I might have led people to believe that I was suggesting that the alpha male condition is a situation requiring a cure. And I didn't want, and I've been waiting for the opportunity to make an ancillary comment regarding that comment. And, you know, that is not the case. I don't want people to think that's what I was saying. What I was, you know, if you really look at people like the police and first responders, soldiers, you know, those are generally alpha male types. But the reason they have to be there is because there are a whole list of other alpha male types that can't or won't control themselves. What I was actually trying to get at was that it's best to have that skill, but you need to know when to turn it off or how to turn it off, when it needs to be turned off. And I was really just suggesting that guys like Doc Myers can help you develop your switch so that you can turn it on and off appropriately and effectively. I think it's obvious to me that if one of these situations, an EMP or anything, occurs, the alpha male types are going to be the people who keep the other people alive. You can't have an entire society of alpha males either. I think they call that the state penitentiary. So, but it's the mix that makes the salad, and I just wanted to clarify my position on that.
Okay, well, U.S. military used to be. It obviously is not anymore. Almost 100% alpha males, and
sure.
Some the Marine Corps more so than the other branches because they have almost no support troops. The U.S. Navy provides logistical support to the Marines, but they managed to have a structured, productive life and work and play in the U.S. Marine Corps, despite being almost all alpha males.
Right.
And you're right. You're right. It's the men, the alpha males who can't control themselves or their behavior. They're the ones who end up in the state penitentiaries, right?
Yeah, and I think, I think some of the funniest people and the people who are the most fun are, you find these people generally in the intelligence communities or in upper levels of police departments. These are the guys who can get the job done, but they have a good sense of humor and they know how to flip the switch on and off. Those are the guys that are hilarious. And,
right.
Those are the people I like to be around. Guys like you, John, that's in the Doc Myers. Those are the people who are the most entertaining. Well, anyway, I just wanted to clear up my position on that. I've been feeling.
Well, you did an excellent job, Rick. We appreciate that. Okay.
Well, okay. Thanks a lot. I'll see you later.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. Call number is 800. Thank you, sir. 800-313-9443. And he's right. Dr. Myers has helped me to be able to segue more comfortably from being in the warrior mode to being in the at ease mode, and that's been helpful for my overall health and outlook and so forth. It doesn't mean I'm no longer a warrior. It means I no longer am coiled up so tight 24/7. Doesn't mean the coil is gone. It just means the coil is in a relaxed mode when it doesn't need to be coiled up and ready for immediate action. And that's a good thing. It's a healthy thing. And that's one of the many benefits I get from working with Dr. Myers. Speaking of which, Tim Spencer will be taking my second hour Friday. I have a Veterans Day event to go to, and so I'll carry the first hour Friday, and Tim Spencer will be visiting with Dr. Myers the second hour of this coming Friday the 10th. I'm very comfortable in the presence of alpha males. I've always have been my entire adult life. That's my comfort level because I'm one of them, and so I fit right in. I'm accepted by them. They accept me. I accept them, and we can either have recreation together or go to war together, whatever the need may be, and take care of business, whatever needs to be done. It's the job of the alpha males to protect the rest of the population, especially the women and children. That's our job. We recognize that. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 8th day of November. Been kind of all over the map here in this discussion, and looking forward to Professor McCanny coming on board here in about 6 or 7 minutes after the top of the hour break. These are very perilous times, to say the least. The situation with North Korea, it's real. There is a real threat there. We can discuss and ponder and prognosticate on the reasons behind it, but to not be concerned about 2 North Korean satellites passing over us every 24 hours with nuclear weapons on them is foolish. I don't know why we haven't blown those things to smithereens. We certainly have the capability to do so. We live in a country where cocaine and heroin is brought into this country by the ton every week. I don't know why intelligence agents from the North Korean government couldn't do the same thing with nuclear devices. Seems like a pretty simple thing to do if it's properly shielded. These are truly perilous times, and we can't change that. We can't change these geopolitical matters. What we can do is engage in thoughtful prayer. That's the most important thing you can be doing, and getting trained up and getting prepared to deal with whatever's coming. That's what we can do. We got control over that. We don't have any control over what's going on at these international levels. We do have control over what we do and what we think and what we believe. Nobody can tell you how you should think about yourself. Nobody can make you feel a certain way. You get to control how you feel. I've read a couple of books about people who survived the death camps in Europe, and that regardless of what they were subjected to, they still felt good about themselves and their precious lives and their desire to live and will to live was not diminished by whatever they were subjected to. They understood their control over the outcome of how they feel. You need to do the same thing for yourself. Somebody can't make you feel anyway. That can't happen. It's your choice how you feel. That's under your control. It's not outside your control. How you feel about yourself is up to you. And the books I've read in my own life has demonstrated that to me. I hope you can reach the same conclusion about yourself. That would be great. That would be wonderful. On top of the hour breaks coming up here in less than 2 minutes, Professor McKinney will be calling in, and we will get some updates from Professor McKinney on his different projects and his thoughts on the state of the world also, which he's always got something to discuss about the state of the world. So it's always a fun hour. And we'll take your questions, calls, and comments at 800-313-9443. We'll be right back. J.R. Moore here, our second hour on Wednesday, the 8th day of November. The preparative of the day, it's an alert. If you live on the West Coast or have somebody you care about that lives on the West Coast, I'm personally going to put my daughter and her family on 24-hour alert. As soon as the show is over, it'll be 8 a.m. on the East Coast, on West Coast, and advise her that she needs to be prepared to evacuate the home within 24 hours of my calling her to do so, which I am not going to do today, but I will put her on alert to be ready to evacuate within 24 hours of my phone call, if and when that time comes up. So we shall see. That's your prepper tip of the day. I truly hope that this does not become necessary, but we've reached a point where I believe it's prudent to be ready to evacuate the West Coast of the United States of America if things go south, which they easily could. The Department of Defense is preparing to intercept North Korean missiles on the West Coast of the United States. The U.S. military is frantically getting ready for the next war, which will be with North Korea if it happens. And it's just smart to be ready. That's enough. Professor McKinney will be joining us in 2 or 3 minutes here. He's wrapping up another guest appearance on another radio show, which he does the second Wednesday of most months. And he'll be with us and be giving us our updates. This woman, this Congresswoman Brazil, she's really blowing the lid off of Donna Brazil. Her book that's recently published, she talks about how she was strongly considering replacing Hillary Clinton with Joe Biden on the ticket, the Democratic ticket. That was just a year ago, just over a year ago. And she also, and I haven't seen the details, but she also has revealed that Hillary Clinton's health was far worse than what we were told publicly. Her coughing fits, her being unable to walk was being attributed to allergies. And when they got forced to a car, they said she'd been diagnosed with pneumonia. And apparently there's more to it than that. And the article I was reading didn't get into the kind of detail on that. Okay. It looks like we now have a patient waiting in the green room. My friend, Professor James McCanning. Professor McCanning is a credentialed astrophysicist. He's taught astrophysics at the university level. He's taught mathematics at the university level. He's the author of 10 books with more on the way, and has not one but 2 weekly radio talk shows. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, John. How are you today?
Really good. You have excellent audio, sir, and that's always good for radio.
Good.
I was just relating a story about this Congresswoman, Donna Brazil, who's blowing the lid off the inside happenings in the election last year of the Democratic Party. And the fact that, and it is a fact that Hillary Clinton's health is really quite dismal. And Donna Brazil was prepared to replace Hillary with Joe Biden. Very important information, don't you think, sir?
Oh, yeah. And I heard also she had mentioned that she feared for her life after the Seth Rich deal.
Yes, I read the same thing, and that's a reasonable concern. Seth Rich was, I haven't looked into that much, but there's a lot of people pointing to what they believe he was murdered. I don't know if you heard my prepper tip of the day, Jim, but when my show's over, I'll be calling my daughter, who lives in Metro Seattle area, to put her on 24-hour alert to evacuate herself and her family because of the situation with North Korea. My private reports, as well as what's coming out publicly, have me very concerned about what is going to happen in the not too distant future with North Korea. And I think it's prudent to be ready to react properly. In this regard, the U.S. military is setting up Patriot missiles to intercept North Korean missiles on the West Coast. We have the former head of the CIA saying that those 2 North Korean satellites that pass over every 12 hours over the middle of the country have nuclear weapons on board. It looks like the next war is being set up, in my opinion. What do you think, sir?
Well, these are pretty crazy times. I don't know how to interpret all of this, and you have to understand that Kim over there, little Kim, is a pawn of the Vatican. Let's be real. He gets his power from somewhere. He maintains it from somewhere. It's not because he's the little bad boy over there that put all his money into military. No, he's there for a reason. And to bring a conflict with the United States, which has gone south on the New World Order, let's put this into perspective. So that's what I'm seeing here, is this is another, like the hurricanes, like the other things that are going on. I see these as manipulated from above him. I don't see him as being anything other than a manipulated little marionette doll that lives in North Korea and is the visible front for what's going on. But to create more havoc in the United States. Last week I was talking about I would estimate that 10% of the U.S. economy has been destroyed between the wildfires in California and the hurricanes. probably 10% of the U.S. economy has been, irreparably destroyed.
That would be a lot, Jim. I'm not sure I would assign that big a percentage. There's obviously a percentage of harm to our economy. On one hand, on the other, I think we're now the world's second largest economy after China. It's a massive economy that has a lot of strength to bounce back from tragedies like this, and we will bounce back from whatever tragedy that might occur, such as hurricanes or fires in California.
But a nuclear bomb anywhere in the world is going to be a major disaster, because here's the problem. Once the first one goes off, we have not had a military nuclear weapon go off since World War II.
Right.
Once it starts, then you got India, Pakistan, I've been at scientific meetings where they talk about the effect of a single medium nuclear bomb, right, and the radiation and the effect, even if it's someplace remote in the world. So this is not, and if it's in your own backyard, is, a million times worse. But then that's just the beginning. That's the ticket to get in the game, so to speak. Then the real shooting match starts.
It is, and I share your concern, Jim. Once the first one goes off, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. We don't know how far or how fast it's going to go, involving not only North Korea and the United States, but China. North Korea is a client state of China. There'd be no North Korea if it wasn't for China, by the way. And China might be trying to play both sides of the coin, where they pretend to be controlling North Korea's dictator, while behind the scenes, I think it's an entirely different story. The relationship between China and North Korea privately, I think, is entirely different than the public discourse.
Mm-hmm. That's what I say. Is also my analysis from where I sit is very partial. So, and there's so much going on behind the scenes that it's difficult to really know, but I think damage to the U.S. is at the center of it. Just another, seemingly unrelated event, but very much related.
Absolutely. Well, people have beliefs that are based on a foundation of sand. Many people believe that since China is our largest trading partner, that they wouldn't cause any harm to our economy. I strongly disagree. Communist China murdered 50 million of their own people to achieve their goals. Why wouldn't they cause harm to their own economy to achieve their goals, or murder as many millions of Americans as they need to achieve their goals? It's the same people in charge, and the same mindset that murdering tens of millions of people to accomplish their goals is perfectly acceptable. That hasn't changed at all, in my opinion. What do you think, Jim?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, no, the problem is, and this is one of the American problems, when you see somebody in a suit, you imagine that those people are honest and good and go to church and have good intentions, and it's really, not true at all. It's it's just the opposite. And, the politicians who, they stand behind that suit as some kind of badge of honor. And it's really not the case at all. But the people that are up at running the world, running these rogue countries level, they're there because they're not there because they happen to be powerful people. Little Kim was educated in Europe. He got the full treatment there. So what I learned when I was getting exposed to the world control was that they're from everywhere. These families are linked together, and they're in all countries. They have all different shapes and sizes, and the DNA histories, but they're all linked together. And so that's the thing you have to remember, is that above all of this, there's a controlling aspect and what's going on with the in Spain or in Bolivia or the United States or England, where the people are finally rebelling by voting in such numbers that they can't even cheat to get the vote back. By the way, I'm thoroughly convinced that the Virginia, New Jersey votes were totally corrupted to give the Democrats the win there. That was, very obvious to me.
I haven't looked into it, Jim, so I don't have any comment on that one way or the other. The Democrats think that happy days are here again with those wins that they had yesterday. They really don't understand the mood of the country, the mood of the people who make this country work, do they?
No, but the other thing is, you got to remember, Trump is not a Republican either. And the incumbent Republicans are really a detriment to the country because they're not really for the country. They're not people that ever were for the country. And so losing those positions to Democrats who are making, promises filled with air is a real potential problem. And so it's an issue that has to be faced. The future is not sound because we got a president that's, for the people.
Right. Well, people need to inform themselves and draw their own conclusions, don't they, Jim?
Yeah, exactly. But politically, we're not out of the water. Let's just put it that way. I mean, this is a fight that's going on, and what you have to understand is that the controllers go underground. They are, they've learned that being visible doesn't work. So they have to go underground to accomplish their goals and be more devious.
Right. And they are very good at that, aren't they, sir?
Yeah, and so that's what we're going to see a lot more of that. Like Puerto Rico, I wanted to talk a little bit about that. The fact that the news is that lots of people are leaving Puerto Rico. They're just leaving. Just like in New Orleans with Katrina, the blacks down in those lower wards that got flooded.
Right.
When they blew the levees, that was a social event. I mean, that was social engineering to get those people out of there. And that's what all of these Caribbean island, or the hurricanes, I mean, you couldn't, these were all planned. I mean, they came in and swept all of those islands clean of people, houses, everything. And so those people are there with nothing. And so in Puerto Rico, where you have a significant population, they're just leaving. And the other thing you're going to see, John, is a crime wave, because Puerto Rico was a self-contained crime wave. And now those people are leaving, and they're going to be all over the place. Primarily, they'll probably mainly end up in New York and Miami and Fort Lauderdale. But you're going to see a huge increase in crime because those people don't have anything to live on. They're used to a life of crime. And so you're going to see this as a increased problem in the near and distant future.
Well, I'm sure the police departments will be and sheriff's departments will be gearing up to deal with it to the best of their ability. It's a shame, but I think there's going to be a lot of what you say happen with increase in crime. Well, what else are you paying attention to this morning, Jim?
Well, this comet is something I'm going to be monitoring for a long time into the future. I didn't say anything before because the reports were pretty vague, and even now the official reports are very vague. But NASA, one of their automated search programs, discovered a comet back in May, and it turns out that it was actually discovered in 2013. But they're just pretending like they just didn't notice it back then. But this comet is much bigger than Hale-Bopp, and already the disinformation is being very, very controlled on this thing. but it's not going to be into the inner solar system until 2022. So we're talking, Hale-Bopp was visible in the solar system for about 6 years and just shattered all previous records. This comet is going to be around for probably 10 to 12 years. And it's supposedly the first time it's ever been here. But there again, I don't trust anything that NASA is saying on this. But it's a comet that there's no indication that it's coming near Earth, but its orbit is going to change. And so I just want to make sure that, there's going to be a lot of disinformation coming out on this.
How do they identify this comet, Jim?
Well, Pan-STARRS is a mnemonic for an automated search program that NASA has. It's for it's for comets or any solar system type of objects, asteroids or, things coming into the solar system or new, like Pluto type planets out there. So it's it's searching the heavens.
Right. And what's the name of this comet?
It's called C 2017, and that would be the year it was discovered, supposedly, K2 in Pan-STARRS. And so that's the total official name, but we'll probably just call it K2 as an abbreviation. He's like 69P is the abbreviation we use for the comet that the European Space Agency went to land on. But this one we'll just kind of call K2. But this is going to be interesting because it's going to have some effects in the solar system. I'm not saying it's, and I want to caution people that no, this is not a Planet X type of thing or something. I mean, but already they're saying, they measured the size of the nucleus and they're saying it's 12 miles across. Well, this is complete garbage. What they do is they take a light reading of the alleged object, and this is very iffy in itself.
Okay.
I hear the music
Jim,
coming.
Hold that thought. We have a break. Call number is 800-313-9443. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the intershelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The intershelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 8th of November, visiting with Professor James McCanney. His website's linked on my links page. Jim, before we get to our next caller, tell people how they can listen to your 2 radio shows and your archives, if you would, please, sir.
Yes, John. Every Thursday evening, 6 p.m. Central Time from WWCR Nashville, Tennessee, the James McCanney Science Hour at the Crossroads. That's my commercial-free show, now in its 17th year. And then Friday night, 10 p.m., Saturday morning, 3 a.m., from WTWW Nashville, re-airs again. And there's many other re-airings on satellite, etc. But all the way to listen on my webpage, jmccsci.com. And then I have my paid cast, the weekly extra 1 hour of deep dive into scientific topics. That's there's a link on my webpage, jmccsci.com, and it's $3.95 a month. So go to the webpage, all the information there, and the archives on the webpage, all free.
All right. Our caller is Rose in Virginia. Good morning, Rose.
Good morning, Mr. Moore and Professor McKinney. When it comes to Kim, I have disagreement with you all. Sadly talking, I hear Rivero, and I do believe that what Kim is doing is building a deterrence, because one problem that President Trump, and I have always been a conservative, was that he was not having any wars, and he has gone against his word. And this thing of this hurricane, you know, what it's going to do is like, and I agree with that with Professor McKinney, it's just destroying the middle class and just having the rich build infrastructures like they always do. And thank you so much. I always enjoy hearing you all, even when we agree or disagree. Thank you, sir. Bye.
Thank you for the call, Rose. Any follow-up on that, Jim?
Social engineering in Puerto Rico, I mean, it's happening before our very eyes. I lived in Puerto Rico. I'm very familiar with all the Caribbean islands, and it's really a beautiful place, but with a lot of problems. A lot of, especially in the more populated areas. But, very clear to me that those hurricanes, the Hurricane Maria was to destroy Puerto Rico, and that's what it did. It just, I've been in hurricanes in Puerto Rico myself, so I know the damage that can be done. But this hurricane just completely leveled the place, so there's nothing left. There's no infrastructure. In spite of attempts to help people, the long term is very grim for anybody trying to live there.
It is. All right.
And so they're leaving, and that was the intent. And then watch, you'll find the great discovery that now we can bend those hurricanes away from those islands. Now that the rich people come in and build their mega resorts all over the place on those islands, you just watch, and we discovered how to control hurricanes. There'll never be another hurricane there. Bye now. No, I'm serious. Wait, that's a prediction, and it's going to happen.
Well, I don't doubt it, Jim. Weather manipulation is real, and you can look up the patents in the U.S. Patent Office that's been granted for weather modification and weather control. A very sad situation with people putting their selfish interest ahead of what's the right thing to do, but that's human nature. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our energy cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the energy cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 8th of November. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. We continue to add to our list of images of continents with new coastlines. We have another one up there from 1957, another moving North America with new coastlines. There should be another one posted in a day or two once we get it up there. A fascinating project, and I could not do it alone. There's hundreds of thousands of hours of movies and TV shows the past 60 plus years. So keep a sharp lookout. If you find one, get that screen capture, get it to me. You get your choice of any of my 5 DVDs as a thank you. Also, my website are energy cleaners. This is my home business. And, yes, it's my home business. If you have arthritis pain, what are you waiting for? Joint pain, back pain? You'll probably take care of it. Not getting a great night's sleep? Well, get rid of the pills and get yourself an energy cleaner. Only $285 shipping included, 2 American zip codes. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you a 30-day money-back guarantee. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads. It's a great combination. I think you'll like it. And I do take PayPal, MasterCard, Visa. Checks can be sent to my address at thelibertyman.com. I have a toll-free order line 24 hours a day. Here it is. Don't try to call me. Order line only. 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Visiting with Professor James McCanney. His website's linked on my links page at thelibertyman.com. We're taking your questions, calls, and comments here at Republic Broadcasting at 800-313-9443. Let's continue, Jim.
Yeah, John, just a comment on Rose's comment about Trump starting wars. Here's a guy that's caught in the crossfire. So it's really,
right.
I wouldn't say starting wars, but how do you react to things knowing, I don't think he's stupid.
He's given no choice. He's been given no choice.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the point. And that's the point of a chess game where you're dealing with the people that control at a level that's traditionally above where he is.
Right.
So it's a difficult thing to do. But the other thing he's doing, he's taking out their base. And the arrests that have been going on, working up through the pedophile rings, and that's, every devious group of people have their weak point, their Achilles heel. And pedophilia is the Achilles heel of the New World Order. And so it's a way of going at them through, through an open sore and an open wound in the flesh, so to speak.
Right. Okay. I agree with you absolutely, Jim. President Trump knows that there's things being manipulated behind the scenes on one hand. On the other, he's being given no choice but to respond and react in the way he's responding and reacting. I felt the same way following the tragedies we had at Waco, Texas, and with Ruby Ridge, that the federal government was clearly, obviously out of control, attacking innocent Americans. And that's when I decided to help organize the militia for St. Louis City and County. I knew that that's what they wanted on one hand. On the other, I felt like we had no choice except to develop defensive measures against what appeared to be an out-of-control federal government murdering innocent Americans. And I think Donald Trump is in a similar situation. He knows that Kim Jong-un is manipulated behind the scenes on one hand. On the other, the threats are real. They're not make-believe. These are real threats that need to be dealt with effectively, don't they, Jim?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is very real, and it's beyond anything that we have seen, really, in history. I mean, this even dwarfs the Russian-Cuban events in the 60s. This is much different.
It is. Yeah. We got a caller on hold here. We got Glenn in Philadelphia. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Jim. Wanted to sort of address the one question you sort of implied earlier, John, about the satellites going overhead twice daily. One reason, as I'm sure you know, NORAD tracks every piece of near-Earth orbital space debris, right down to things like an astronaut's glove, that's still up there. And they may have, missile technologies that can take out, or they do have missile technologies that can take out satellites. But it's a horrific proposition in terms of the debris field that's created and the danger that creates from near-Earth space flight. They still want to send ships to and from the International Space Station. The U.S. Air Force still has its little mini drone space shuttle for secret spy missions. We still want to be putting other satellites into near-Earth orbit. So to have all these little pieces of debris up there from a blown-up satellite, each of which is like a bullet, they could easily, pierce through all these others, damage these other spacecraft, other satellites. It's really sort of a horrific prospect that they don't want to, cause. So
when you start destroying other people's satellites, also that brings up a whole new, because China has developed technology. It's basically a shotgun in space, and there's no satellite that could withstand it. So. And it's something you cannot defend against. All of our satellites are up there naked, basically. So if you start shooting those kind of weapons around, it might be a day or two till all of our major satellites are dysfunctional. So
right, exactly. So there's that threat as well. But I'd hate to be sitting on the International Space Station needing a ride home and realizing there's some new debris field that with these pieces of debris moving at thousands of miles an hour that could easily poke through my ship that I'm trying to ride home on. They don't want that much debris floating around in near-Earth space orbit. It'd have to be a pretty dire situation for anybody to, and that applies to everyone. I mean, a few explosions like that could make, all near-Earth space flight untenable. I really have to stay on the ground because it'd be too dangerous up there.
Yeah,
so, that's one.
It's another factor. Many factors like that. But I don't think China worries a lot about that, nor would North Korea. But to their own chagrin, ultimately. Also wanted to venture a hypothesis about the North Korea thing, which I don't expect you may disagree with it, but my take on the North Korea thing is that there's an awful lot of brinksmanship and saber rattling going on and that sort of thing. But I sort of think the North Korean thing could be a red herring. And what they're really preparing for, if we look at this things going on with this purge in Saudi Arabia, the Saudi war with Yemen, and I trying to drag Iran in by way of saying that the missile that was launched at the Saudi airport was a Yemeni missile that was gotten from Iran. Now they're trying to drag Iran in. A lot of Christians and Jews are, look at the biblical chapter of Ezekiel 38 and 39 as well. That talks about our Persia, which is our modern day Iran, allied with other what are today Arab states, Turkey and Ethiopia and Libya, coming up in this Magog war against Israel. And that is an eventuality. The problem what's untenable about that is it's basically implied cooperation between what are today the Iranian Shiites and these other nations which are Sunni.
And, I think I basically think that we may end up seeing Iran attacked, because it's one of the 7 nations listed on the 7 nations in 5 years that Wesley Clark outlined. It's a nation that Hillary Clinton specifically said she would attack. And it's, it is part of the Israeli Greater Israel plan to have much of that land. There's much more incentive for, they really want war with Iran, and the Sunnis are 80% of Islam. The Shiites are 20%. They really don't like,
the only, excuse me, the only problem with Iran is they're armed to the teeth, and they have an ally called Russia in China.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's a big problem. So people started pointing out that Iraq was the size of California, and Iran is 3 times that size. So yeah, it's most of the people are, of course, are concentrated in much smaller areas. But yeah, it's a big deal. But at some point, something is going to occur, whether by treaty or by conquering warfare, that is going to eventually cause Iran to come down with these Turkey and Ethiopia and Libya and these other nations against Israel at some point in the future. So I'm a lot more concerned, with this idea that they're going to end up going after Iran. I almost feel like the North Korean thing is just like a bunch of light and sound and smoke to cover up the prep.
Well,
the
thing that it's interesting is Kim has also talked about creating a resort area over there, mega resort, kind of like Disney World for adults, and for everybody. But he's actually talking about that. Well, it's hard to do when you're threatening nuclear war. You're probably not going to have a lot of people going there. But that makes a lot more sense than nuclear war and armament on a peninsula where there's no place except ocean all around.
Right. And the number of people that would be killed in Seoul, South Korea, and Pyongyang, North Korea, within a matter of days, if not hours, is just horrific. The proximity, means the casualty, number of casualties, even if they were just using artillery, let alone tactical nukes or anything like that, would just be mind-boggling, and it would send the world into horror, and whoever precipitates that would be a pariah. So I just think that they're going to find a way to avoid that. Like I said, lots of brinksmanship and saber rattling, but ultimately, I'm hoping and thinking it's a red herring. All right, guys, thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, thanks for the call, Glenn. We appreciate it. Call number is 800-313-9443.
Yeah, I don't predict the future. I've realized that it's too difficult. It's pretty good to see the past. It's difficult to see the past, but future is, wow.
Right.
Up for grabs.
Right. Yeah, it's who would have guessed some of the things that are taking place? I mean, you and I have lived long enough, Jim, to see how things have changed so dramatically in our world in ways that we could not possibly have dreamed of 30, 40 years ago.
Oh yeah, no, this is ever changing, and I've been talking with some people who actually have very positive attitudes. That in all different fields, from science and engineering to music even, that there's a lot of, we've been held under this kind of cloak of evil and stupidity, and people are breaking out now. They're feeling actually a breath of relief. And so, but there's no major victories that you could say, okay, now we can rest and go back and just do fun things again, because the evil in the world has just gone underground. It's still there.
Right. Well, it has, and that's simply the way it is, isn't it, Jim?
Oh yeah, exactly. So it's hard to predict, but as far as what I do, I just take care of myself and work on the things I'm very busy with. I wish I had about 8 more of myself so where I could divide between the various things, but that hasn't happened yet. So,
We got a next caller. It's Dean in West Virginia. Good morning, Dean.
Good morning. Well, I sort of disagree, but we don't have a lot of time to get into all of that. You got to remember, back when that generals got up on stage after the Gulf War there, he said they came out with a list of all these countries. And they said, what are we going to do? We're going to go to war. They've hit every country except for two that were on that list. That's Korea and Iran. And right now, the Trump popularity is supposed to be low, but that's the mainstream media pushing that. There were 3 that lost elections in Virginia that were Republicans because they would not get on board with Trump. Okay. We're almost on the verge of a civil war here. What's the best way to stop a civil war? A world war. Same thing happened with the unions and so forth forming back around World War I, and within other things, the Great Depression, World War II. Okay, my question is, with Professor McKinney, what's the best to take, potassium iodide tablets or iodate? And the second question is, how many days, if the nuclear exchange is restricted to Iran with short-range tactical nukes and also limited to Korea area with it sweeping up, the radiation sweeping up through Alaska and down the Pacific coast and then swoops back up. How many days have we got on the East Coast that radiation is going to hit us on the east?
Oh, well, those are tough questions. On the first one about what to take, I would have to refer you to people that are specialists in that, like people like Cass Ingram or other people who are probably better suited than myself to answer those kind of questions. But regarding even one nuclear bomb in the Mideast would be a disaster for the entire world. So limited exchanges, there's no such thing as a limited exchange. It's more like unlimited exchange. So but one nuclear bomb going off any place is going to be a worldwide disaster of the scope and level of Fukushima.
Okay. Well,
so recovery time is.
Go ahead.
Just to imagine somehow we're going to recover. I always used to joke about President Reagan. He had a plan for, excuse me, if we had an unlimited nuclear war with Russia, he wanted the post office, the Department of Postal Department, to be up and running as soon as possible so people could get their mail. And I'm like, I don't think you understand, Ronnie. You know, there ain't going to be nobody around to deliver mail to, nor would you want to write a letter to Aunt Lucy to see if she's still, breathing. People don't have an idea what nuclear bombs can do and will do. So you don't even want to go there. That's not something that. Look who proliferation of nuclear weapons. Bill Clinton. He's the guy that was responsible for North Korea having them, and coordination with China. All of this could have been prevented a long time ago. This should never be happening, but it's here.
Here's our last break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 8th of November. The answer, Jim, to Dean's question about what to take, it's potassium iodide. It's iodide. India, Oscar, Delta, India, Oscar, Delta, Echo. Iodide. That's what's sold as a substance that will fill up your thyroid with potassium iodide so that radiation can't be absorbed by your thyroid, which doesn't protect any other organ in your body, obviously, but the thyroid is particularly vulnerable to radiation exposure. So that's the answer there. And I'm sure those products are getting difficult to find because in a kind of pending crisis like this, the small supplies that we have nationwide are sold out typically within 7 to 10 days. That's what I expect. I know I've got my personal supply, and if you don't have one, ladies and gentlemen, especially on the West Coast, I would suggest that you get them. Jim, we're down to the last 2 minutes. What are your thoughts, sir?
Well, John, I just want to remind people that the wing, I'm starting to take potential customers' names, and that there are no outstanding license agreements with anybody, so this is all heading forward into the taking orders from people for either on-grid, off-grid, but people that are interested in becoming customers to email the jmcc@jmcannyscience.com. All that information is on my webpage, and then we'll send out a questionnaire, and then to separate the real people, real customers from the interest seekers, then we'll be asking for a deposit and going ahead with installation. So just want to remind people of that. That's all on my webpage. Okay. Other than that, things are moving forward.
Yes, it seems like things are in fast forward to me. We're going to be in 2018 here in 7 weeks.
Oh, this is crazy. I just wonder where things have gone also, but that's we're living in a time warp, definitely.
Yep, it is, and most people I know make the same comments. Well, we want to thank you as always for being with us, Jim, and look forward to having you back next Wednesday, and we'll get caught up on the events of the day, sir.
Thanks, John. Take care, everybody.
Okay, thank you. Well, things are in fast forward. Potassium iodide. There may be some listed on I'm not sure. I've got a couple hundred products listed on my website under John Survival and Tactical Gear. I'm not positive if I've got any there or not. These are all Amazon products, of course. It wouldn't hurt to check. And there's a lot of fun stuff there. Gift giving coming up that season. Under John Survival and Tactical Gear, you may find just the perfect gift for somebody that's interested in preparedness, or maybe even for yourself, under John's Survival and Tactical Gear. Tomorrow, we will be talking about the energy cleaner, and we will be talking about fiberglass domes, like we do most Thursdays. And those discussions go in a lot of different directions, as they always do. It's always a lot of fun to visit with Don Kubley and Tim Spencer. In the meantime, get your medical supplies, your energy cleaner, your essential oils now while you can, your firearms, ammunition. Never, ever give up your guns. Please do have a fun, safe, productive day, and God bless America.